Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always ready to explore.
Okay, so today we're all about stress-free travel. Sounds good,
I
right?
think everyone's looking for a bit of that, especially with travel these days.
For sure. We're taking a look at a video. It's called First Time Traveler, 5 Golden Tips for a Smooth and Enjoyable Trip. And we're going to unpack it all right here, right now.
Sounds like a plan.
So the video really zeroes in on planning right from the start. And, I've got to say, it's true. Planning can make or break a trip.
You're absolutely right. It's not just about logistics, though, is it?
Definitely not. What do you think is the biggest benefit of having a solid plan?
Well, for me, it's peace of mind. Knowing you've got things sorted out, even loosely, just takes a weight off your shoulders.
Makes total sense. It's like knowing you've got a safety net so you can actually relax and enjoy the experience.
Exactly. And there are so many cool ways to plan these days, too. Have you ever tried mind mapping?
I haven't actually. Is that where you like draw out all your ideas and connect them visually?
Yeah, it's great for brainstorming and seeing the big picture. Plus, you can get as creative as you want with it.
I love that. And of course, there are all the travel apps out there too, which I'm definitely a fan of.
Oh, absolutely. They can be lifesavers, especially for things like real-time flight updates and finding cool local spots.
Okay, so planning is key, but then comes the fun part, choosing your destination. This is where things can get a little tricky, don't you think?
It can be. Sometimes the hardest part is just narrowing down the options.
Right. So how do you suggest people approach choosing the right destination for them?
I think it's all about aligning your destination with your travel style and interests.
That's a good point. What if someone's not even sure what their travel style is?
That's a great question. It's something that might evolve over time, too. And I think a good starting point is to think about what kind of experiences really energize you. Do you crave buzzing city life, cultural immersion, or maybe something more off the beaten path?
I like that. For me, I need a good mix of nature and adventure. I can't
Yeah.
just sit on a beach for a week.
Totally. And some people really thrive on that kind of relaxation, so it really is personal.
Okay, so we've got our destination, but now the video talks about creating a detailed itinerary. I'm curious, what's your take on that?
Well, I'm all for having a plan, but I think it's important to strike a balance. You don't want to be so tied to a schedule that you miss out on spontaneous adventures.
That's my feeling exactly. I always try to have a few must-do activities booked, but then I leave room for flexibility.
I like that approach. It's like having a roadmap, but you're open to detours along the way.
Exactly. And who knows, those detours might lead you to something incredible that you wouldn't have found otherwise.
You never know what hidden gems you might uncover.
All right, so we've planned, we've picked our destination. Now it's time for the part I always struggle with packing.
Packing can definitely be a challenge. Any particular packing pitfalls you fall into?
Oh, I used to be the queen of overpacking. I'd pack for every possible scenario, even if it was highly unlikely.
I think we've all been there at some point.
For sure. But this video really stressed packing light, and I've been trying to be more mindful of that. Any tips for our listeners who might need help in that department?
Absolutely. Packing cubes have been a game changer for me. They help compress your clothes and keep everything organized.
I've heard good things about those. I'll have to give them a try.
You should. And another tip is to pack versatile clothing items that can be mixed and matched.
So like a basic t-shirt that could be dressed up or down.
Exactly. A simple scarf or cardigan can also add a pop of color or transform an outfit from day to night.
Makes sense. And of course, you always have to consider things like baggage allowances and any cultural sensitivities around clothing.
Oh, definitely. You don't want to accidentally pack something that could be considered offensive or inappropriate in your destination. It's always a good idea to do a little research beforehand.
All right, final tip from the video, learning some basic phrases in the local language. Always a good idea, right?
It really is. Even just a few simple phrases can go a long way in showing respect and making connections with locals.
I totally agree. It can really enhance your whole travel experience. Do you have any personal experiences where knowing a little bit of the language came in handy?
Oh, all the time. It can be as simple as being able to order food in a restaurant or ask for directions, but sometimes it leads to something more meaningful. I remember once, in a small village in Thailand, I was able to have a basic conversation with an elderly woman who spoke no English. We just smiled and shared a few words, but it was such a special moment of connection.
I love that. It's those little moments that make travel so enriching.
Absolutely. It reminds you that we're all connected no matter where we come from or what language we speak.
So while this video was geared towards first-time travelers, I think these tips are valuable for anyone, no matter how experienced you are.
Absolutely. There's always something new to learn and discover when it comes to travel.
Now, before we wrap up, I always like to ask our experts for a bit of unconventional advice. So what's one travel tip that might surprise our listeners? Something they might not find in a typical travel guide.
Hmm, let me think. Okay, here's one. Embrace getting lost.
Getting lost. Now that's intriguing.
Think about it. When you get lost, you're forced to slow down, to really observe your surroundings, and to interact with locals in a way you might not otherwise.
That's a really interesting perspective. I've definitely had some amazing experiences when I veered off the planned path.
Exactly. Those unexpected moments often become the most memorable parts of a trip.
Great advice. So listeners, next time you're traveling, don't be afraid to step off the beaten path and see where the journey takes you.
Happy travels, everyone!
Thanks for listening.